And yes, it is time for another edition of A Mason's World. And Jike Mason right here at the old controls of SpaceX. The orbital launch. The update is here. And I want to get into some of this fakery here because it's unreal. And if you're not awake, this may seem real, which is scary. Okay? You have to come to realize in your spiritual journey, that's what it is, everything you have been told is a lie. I know it sounds crazy. Space is a lie. We live on a flat plane with a dome. But let's see what this is talking about.
On today's episode, we are doing a full play-by-play analysis of Starship's maiden voyage into Oblivion.
Oblivion. Where's that? Look at this stuff. Does this look round to you? Like we're on a ball? It's all flat. How about the ocean?
The moment of ignition to the explosive finale and the aftermath that followed. We are breaking down everything that happened to
this fake crap falling to the ground. It's falling right back next to the rocket, I guess. How did that happen?
To the Starship, what it all means, and how SpaceX will forge a path to future success with this launch system. This is everything you need to know about the flight of the most powerful rocket ever created.
Ever created. Okay, let's see the space race. This phony crap. Astronauts.
This is the space race. On April 20th at 9:33 a.m. Eastern Time, the
9:33 for your Masonic coding. Let's keep going.
Moment we've all been waiting for arrived. A fully stacked and fueled Starship ignited its super heavy booster and lifted off into the morning skies above Boca Chica, Texas. Starship flew for 4 minutes, reaching an altitude of about 39 kilometers and
39 for your Masonic coding.
And a maximum speed of 2,150 kilometers per hour. Unfortunately, at T plus 4 minutes after after the loss of vector control, which resulted in some interesting acrobatics, the flight termination system activated and Starship was completely destroyed over the Gulf of Mexico.
It was completely destroyed, so this explosion just knocked that thing out. Keep that in mind here as we watch this.
Now, as most rocketry enthusiasts and industry experts will tell you, a successful first test flight is anything that succeeds in lifting off the pad. So,
how can that be? If it lifts off the pad, that is a successful test flight. How? It ain't flying. What is that about?
In that regard, Starship's first launch was pretty normal, aside from the SLS, which got its payload.
All right, notice what he just said there. It's pretty normal. That launch was pretty normal. But watch.
All the way to the moon on the first try.
They did it with no trying going to the friggin' moon in 1969 when technology sucked. Or at least they told us it sucked. Or did they go to the moon?
Recent examples of first flights and test runs of new rockets like Relativity's Terran 1 end the same way as this attempt did, with a failure to reach outer space.
Outer space. Failure to reach outer space. How do you do that? You got a dome above you.
That being said, almost immediately after ignition started, it was clear that there were some big problems for Starship.
What?
The large cloud of dust and smoke forming around the rocket while it throttled up on the orbital launch mount looked normal at first, but soon started throwing out large chunks of concrete debris, indicating that the launch pad was getting badly chewed up by the massively powerful Raptor V2 engine array.
You would think that somebody would have thought about that beforehand, right? You would have thought, but they didn't.
Once the clamps released, Starship tilted on a slight angle and slid sideways in what was likely a launch pad avoidance maneuver, a
How does it do that? It slid sideways. Does this look like it's sliding sideways? The whole damn thing would be coming down. But look, he's going off his sucker all straight.
Common practice that tries to save launch architecture any extra damage from the liftoff thrust by getting the rocket exhaust pointing somewhere else.
How? How do you do that when it's coming on out the engine here? What a bunch of garbage.
But as the booster cleared the Mechazilla tower, we could already see that 3 engines had not lit.
3 for Masonic coating.
In this camera angle from SpaceX, we can see both the angular liftoff trajectory and the shower of debris.
Do you look like it's moving and falling all over and all that crap? No.
Splashing down into the ocean. But it was still flying, thanks mostly to the fact that Starship doesn't actually need all 33 engines to fly.
33 engines for Masonic coating. How many times can they put Masonic coating in this?
Especially when it's carrying no payload. As the flight continued, though, we started seeing more signs of trouble. More engines began failing, and at about T plus 30 seconds, we can
30-second T. Keep that T in mind. I'll explain it in a second.
Clearly see some explosions from just above the engine housings that rain debris off the side of the rocket. Observers are pretty sure what we're seeing here is the destruction of the hydraulic power units, the equipment that generates the pressure used for gimbaling the main engines. That's when the engine nozzles change their angle to help steer the rocket. The hydraulic system is also responsible for unlatching the second stage.
How dumb is that? You think that's real? Do you really think that that footage is real? It's computer generated.
The hydraulic failure theory is supported by the slow loss of control that begins shortly afterwards.
What is this?
That coupled with 2 more engine failures. We can assume that each engine loss is roughly 9% of the total.
9 for your coding, 3.
Thrust. So the loss of these engines and the HPUs not only account for the eventual loss of control suffered by the giant rocket, but it also accounts for the late arrival to max Q, the point at which the
look at it, just showing a dome. Max Q.
The vehicle is under the highest mechanical stress due to its speed and environment.
No, if it were real and they shot a rocket up there, it would hit the dome and then it would disintegrate. That's what would happen.
Environmental resistance. By this point, the vehicle can't keep its nose up and the aerodynamic stress is becoming extreme. We've lost as many as 8 Raptor engines and there is plenty of visible sputtering and flaring from the
Who's taking these photos?
super heavy thrust section. As the rocket continues trying to right itself, it starts going through loops. And while this is obviously not supposed to happen, it's hard not to be impressed that Starship is able to keep its integrity through not 1 or 2 loops.
Is this real? This thing just blew up. And what is taking this picture?
But nearly 4 full rotations as it falls. Starship even hit a second max Q event on the way down before it exploded. It's really hard to understand how well the fuselage held up in this particular moment. Most rockets break apart if they turn even slightly out of alignment during a launch. And
all just baffle them with bull crap stuff. None of this is real.
That's not because they're poorly made.
Junk.
It's because they're incredibly massive objects traveling at supersonic speeds. That high up, the first stage booster is almost out of fuel, and
it's almost out of fuel. So how's it going to reach anywhere if it were legitimate?
Second stage becomes much heavier. Aerodynamics is pulling one way, while gravity and inertia are pulling in other directions. Nothing is able to hold up under those sorts of strains.
She blinded me with science.
We even see the exact moment Starship also loses this battle. This is a shot which reportedly comes from a flap camera just before the flight termination system activated. What you're seeing is the first stage booster bending at a pretty severe angle. Let's also quickly note that we can
How?
see 3 of 4 instances of
3?
missing heat shield tiles on the ship from this angle, which is really good considering the circumstances.
What were the circumstances? He'll explain it here in a second.
If this is genuine, then it is definitely what caused the FTS to finally kick in. The booster is moments away from crumpling and separating all on its own. But
now remember, they showed you footage of this crap hitting and landing back on the launch pad. Remember that? He just told you it destroyed.
Even though this proves that Starship is an incredibly tough vehicle and that it has more than enough power to get into orbit, the damage caused by those Raptor V2 engines is a gigantic issue. These are images of the launch site 2 days later, courtesy of WAI+.
If all that energy and that stuff is burning, where are the burn marks? Where are they? Huh? That thing's lighting stuff up here, man. Burning crap up with heat. And it ain't burned none. What is going on here? Yeah, it's all... Come on.
On YouTube. Huge chunks of reinforced Fondag concrete litter a wide area around the mecha.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it looks like we found some more rocks. Does this look real? It looks too clean to me.
Tower, but these are just the bits that didn't hit.
Nothing happened to this tower. Does this look real? What are they showing you? Look at this, concrete with some rebarb. That rebarb's not even black. Oh boy.
Anything. Take a look at the orbital tank farm. That new protective berm wasn't nearly tall enough to stop whatever force or debris crumpled those fuel tanks. The mecha
whatever debris or force.
Zilla Tower itself seems to have weathered the launch relatively well, but surrounding architecture like the Drawworks building, where the sensitive lift mechanisms for the tower's arms are kept, looks like the shelled leftovers of a World War II bunker.
Come on. This is so fake. I'm sorry. If you believe in this stuff, you're DUM. Well, you know the rest.
Damage to the inside of the door here makes it pretty clear that there will need to be repairs made to that lift equipment.
Oh, yeah.
Getting close.
Does this look real? Does it look like, it caught? Look at it. No, there's no burn, no signs of burn or heat or an explosion like you saw. What is this?
Closer to the heart of the blast, the orbital launch mount has been pretty thoroughly chewed up. It doesn't look very different from the damage the SLS did to the mobile launch platform in November 2022. Most of the plumbing and shielding looks rough, but not beyond...
It looks rough. I don't know. It looks like junk to me. Stock footage or something.
Repair. If SpaceX wasn't going to be forced to take the whole thing apart, that is. Because here we see the worst of the damage, the concrete pad, or what's left of it.
Really?
That new heat-resistant Fondag didn't stand a chance. Just
look
at
Makes
that
me
hole.
up some sacrete.
We can infer here that the flame from the engines burned straight through the concrete pad and
it burned straight through the Did you see in that other photo that they showed any burn mark? His word was burn. Do you see any burn mark in that photo I showed you?
allowed the hot gas to get under the ground and build up pressure until it exploded out through the path of least resistance, taking half of the launch mount foundation along with it.
Man.
Here we can see the biggest actual problem with the Starship launch.
What?
Losing a test vehicle is normal.
Now they show this thing. It's just over. What is taking the photos of this stuff blowing up? Let's go.
Engines burned straight through the concrete pad and allowed the hot gas to get under the ground and build up pressure until it exploded out through the path of least resistance, taking...
Does any of that photos that we looked at show any explosion or any blown up crap? No.
Half of the launch mount's foundation along with it. Here we can see the biggest actual problem with the Starship launch. Losing a test vehicle is normal. Losing your launch architecture because of some botched maths is not. According to Elon Musk, the SpaceX
puppet.
engineers have been working on a better option for the pad under the
This guy, in case you don't know, is a actor. He's playing a role on a world stage.
launch mount, but it wasn't ready in time for the first test flight. This is going to become a point of debate over the weeks and months to come. If SpaceX had waited, they very likely would have had a
Fake
more successful
footage.
test flight with much less infrastructure damage. But
How dumb. Why would you risk this investment knowing that? I mean, it's just stupid. It's a dumb story.
going by the data from their static
Ain't no
fire on
space.
February 9th, the team at Boca Chica thought that the new high-strength and heat-resistant Fondag concrete they had recently installed under the OLM would be able to take the pressure from a single test launch. After all, it had held up remarkably well after that static fire, but that was with the engines at just under 50% thrust.
Now, remember what they told you. A lot of those engines didn't light.
And while there is a water sprinkler system in the launch mount, the pad
That's
at Boca
stupid.
Chica is not equipped
Look at
with
this.
flame diverters or a full water deluge like a typical NASA pad. So there's nowhere
What do you think? These NASA and this guy are two separate entities? Do you think that the federal government would let a private company shoot off their own friggin' rockets? Come on.
for that energy to go but into the pad. Concrete hardens in a crystalline pattern. Once a single crack forms, the whole structure can fail catastrophically. You can
Did we
even
see
the
that in that
aftermath
other
that
video?
followed.
Oh, I'm sorry. Anyway, you get the point. What I'm trying to talk about here is all of this is fake. Space is fake. There is no outer space. The world is flat. Okay? And everything
of the
that...
total
Wait a
thrust.
minute.
So the
All right, I'm sorry. 9%. There's another coding all over the place here. All right. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Sorry I messed this segment up a little bit, but hey, we're just testing.